What's going on, guys? This is the Buried in the Bones podcast. This is episode 009. 009. It has been over 2 months now since I started this thing. As you guys know, it's going to be something I continue to do because it is, one, it's really fun. Two, the experience and the craftsmanship that I have gotten to look over, work over, and kind of explore myself. It's been really fun. It's been a really good discipline for me, and here we are on Easter Sunday, still getting after it, and it's because I said I would do it, and so that is the expectation. So it is a good little discipline for me and a cool way to keep myself accountable. But today we're talking about, it's kind of a buzzword these days, detoxing. And you've probably heard it before. Someone's like, I need to detox via, I don't know, my juices. I need to go through a juice detox and a juice cleanse, and I need to go through a social media cleanse. I need to cleanse this and cleanse that. And what detoxing actually is, the actual thing is, it's the removal of this parasitic / toxic habit, trait, idea, belief, action that we have that is supporting a big aspect of our decision making and things that are very much involved in our life that we wish to get rid of in order to better ourselves. So that's what detoxing is, and I'm pretty sure there is a better definition out there, but in a general sense that is the idea. But usually what it should be, detoxing should be something that provides you momentum. And then with that momentum, it should be something that provides you a means to courageously remove something that's toxic in your life and better fit something in that better supports it. Like other things and like most things today, what has happened is detoxing has turned into something that kind of promotes someone's self-virtue, or they virtue signal what it is they are doing. And what I mean by that is, how often do you see or hear someone and they're like, oh, you're on Instagram or you're on TikTok? Pfft, I deleted that months ago. I detoxed that. I'm on this juice cleanse. And if you take a step back for a minute, every time I've talked to someone like that, I'm like, I think you're bragging. I think you're bragging a little bit. I don't know, is it just me? But it used to be something that is a little bit more self-imposed and for thyself, and it is becoming something that people want others to be aware of, is what I'm getting at. But today, we're going to talk over, what it is that actually needs to be detoxed, how they're similar to habits, and like most habits, what actually has to happen, and this really translates to, we'll say, anatomy and physiology, but with habits in general, what has to happen, people get confused. It's not the removal of something, it is actually the addition of this new habit. So if we're detoxing something, or if we're getting a better habit, instead of very, very focally, being focused on what I'm trying to remove out of my life, I need to focus on what it is I'm trying to implement that gets rid of the problem. It's just like habits. And movement patterns. We'll go over that in just a minute, but that's kind of how it works. We've got it backwards, man. People want to be hyper fixated on removing things, but in reality, it becomes arbitrary. It's people remove random things assuming that's going to fix the grand problem, when in reality, it's a little more deep rooted in the foundation of how you go about your decision making, what it is that's causing you to take or make these actions. And the root problem is deeper than simply deleting a social media app for 3 days. It's a little bit more than just detoxing from the socials, my friends. But in order to detox, we have to add something that provides value and yields legitimate growth and, we'll say, prosperity to our lives. But first and foremost, I'm going to tell you guys a story, of course. We're back in business. Last week I got away from it. This week we are back in action. But I'm going to talk about maybe a story that kind of got me to, I would say this time, got my mind in a better place, and I think at the end of it I came out a better person. It was one of the most, I would say my brain changed throughout this time. And of course, you may or may not know, it was the 2019 and 2020 year. That was, what a year for all of us. COVID years, if you guys aren't familiar with what I'm saying, you should all be at this point, but it is what it is. But yeah, man, I was in college, and it was my junior year. Let me just explain my COVID situation real quick on how it looked in my eyes. I was in school actually going to a sports psychology class. I was walking and didn't really know what was going on. And so I walked to class. No one was there. And I thought, damn, I guess class is canceled. So, of course, I was like, what am I going to do now? I guess I'm going to go to the gym on campus. And I'm walking into the gym, there's like no one there, there's two people there, working the front desk, but I look up and of course there is oh wow, Michigan State just shut down, the entire campus is closed due to this pandemic going on. And that was essentially how my college career ended. From that moment on, I went to online school. They kicked us out, essentially made us pay full tuition. I could complain about it as much as I want to, but it happened. But we got sent home. That's where isolation became a thing. Friend groups started dispersing. People started doing their own thing. But what happened for me is I went and lived with my best friend and another roommate, and we were just kind of still working. I actually was working at the hospital part-time. I was a nurse tech, not for long, because I got the job, then the pandemic happened. Then all of a sudden, without knowing anything, you hear pandemic, and then they're like, oh, also you're going to be a housing unit for COVID. And so here's this hazmat suit you have to wear, and you have to, risk your life. And I was like, nah, I'm going home, buddy. So yeah, I did not end up a nurse tech for long. One, it's hard work, and I respect all my nurses out there. My wife's one. But it's a job that I'm not the best at, and in those circumstances, it was the easiest justification for me to quit. Cheers. Anyways, what happened was I was isolated. There was not much to do, but what I ended up doing was a self-imposed 70.3 triathlon. That means I set the course myself. I routed myself for the swim, for the bike, and the half marathon. So the 70.3 entails a 1.2 mile swim. It is a 56 mile bike ride, and then a half marathon, 13.1 mile run afterwards. So swim to the bike to the run, triathlon. And so I started training. I was in school still online, but I'm going to be honest, it was not the same. School was not as hard as it once was, and it was pretty easy to get through it while having a very intense training schedule. I was training more than I was schooling. I was training about 7 to 13 hours a week, 7 to 13 hours, which is a lot of training hours. And it was the first time where I rooted into myself. And during this time of a lot of anxiety for a lot of people, a time for turmoil, as you guys know, disagreements, and people just started butting heads, and people just started getting a bit more polarizing with their views and their opinions and their thoughts and how they treated people and how they reacted to people when they didn't think what the other wanted them to think. And it was just kind of weird. And it does seem like today we have been lost in what were the habits we developed back in that day. So I was like, man, what am I going to do? If you know me well, sitting around is not something I'm very good at. I need to be better at it. As a matter of fact, resting is something that I need to be better at. That is why I'm taking a nap after this. But yeah, I had to do something, and I knew that fitness was an option and I wanted to accomplish something amidst what should be a very terrible year, right? Or two. But with all the world in chaos, I had the ability to control myself, and all that entails my own physical journey, my own health, and really just take care of myself and stop worrying about things outside of my control and what I can control, being myself. As I started doing my 7 to 13 hours of training, and of course we were still hanging out with friends, I started noticing and appreciating what it is that I knew was important to me. So my nutrition, my training routine, my sleep, being careful with how much alcohol I'm consuming. Second to that, I also noticed what was not good for me and started to not appreciate some people around me with some, we'll say, toxic habits. And I started noticing groups of my friends and people and just how they talked about other groups and other people that were within that group that weren't present at that time. Maybe we were all out having a beer or something and someone wasn't there. I started noticing people just not talking great about them, or maybe the folks would essentially guess or bet on whether or not some of my friends would make it with their significant others based on their circumstance. And I started to realize, oh, that's not what I want. That's not who I want to be. Is that how I look to other people? Because that's pretty disgusting. And that's not cute. And that's not very attractive. Not as a young man trying to find his way. I certainly think or found that at that time I realized that would not take me a very far way. So I just began to isolate a little bit more, and I began to read a little bit more. And I have a very sweet quote coming up. I'm going to reference it in a little bit, by Carl Jung. And I actually, as I was writing this and thinking about how I kind of almost got into what was a self-isolative state, but in reality, it was the happiest I'd ever been. And now, with the people who have been introduced in my life, it's kind of cute. I'll explain that quote, but it really spoke to me because it was hard to make hard decisions, and it was interesting. And there was that gray area of, okay, am I gonna be lonely, or am I gonna find people that support me, that I want to support and put energy into? Yeah, it's hard. And back then there wasn't much to do outside of being outside and potentially drinking a beer. And of course, as you guys know, it's pretty obvious to me in most cases that alcohol really just highlights what is intrinsic feeling and thought anyways. So the group of people and the habits that were associated with it were not my cup of tea or my preference of beer. So, man, how'd that start? The detoxing of my life, the removal of people out of my life really began with the addition of fitness and self-love. I've said it before, but you can expand your mind by exploring your body. Expanding your mind is just creating a little bit of self-awareness. And with that self-awareness, you get to explore the world, right? Your primary tool to explore the world and develop a connection with not just you, but the outside world is physical touch and exploration, right? Movement throughout the world, how I physically explore this world, creates the relationship and the connection between self and world. And that was my first step. I talked about it a minute ago, or moments ago, but how habits and motor patterns, which is a strength and conditioning or just a physiological / anatomical, we'll say, habit, are very, very similar. A motor pattern, what it is, or a neural pathway is, if I got you in the gym, essentially, you have a way you've probably moved your entire life. And so we introduce to most people a hip hinge, for example, which is an action at the hip joint where you have your femur articulate within your pelvis, and it creates a rotation that disassociates the spine, the spinal column, from the femur and the lower body. Most people can't do it. Most people have leaned over a certain way their entire lives, and so therefore they have a habit or a motor pattern, correct? Their motor pattern is not good. It is not a hip hinge. But like habits, like motor patterns, you cannot unlearn them. You have to implement a new pattern that benefits the body, soul, spirit. We have to implement the pattern of a hip hinge, meaning I have to sit you down and give you enough time, and then within that time I give you a stimulus, and hopefully we yield a better response. And what that response means, maybe this time we got the contraction we wanted or the joint function we wanted within the hip hinge. It's like a habit. For example, if I have a coffee habit, I do. A big part of the coffee habit is I have probably at 7 to 8 a.m. I get a signal or a stimulus or a feeling that, okay, I'm between classes, I'm not necessarily tired, but I think I might be. There's the signal, and my response is like, yep, coffee, there I go. But the longer I can delay or increase the time between stimulus, being that moment where I would want a coffee, if I give myself some time between the moment I decided I wanted it and my response, my habit will be, or I will be choosing the new thing of, okay, no, I don't get coffee at 7. You have to implement new habits in order to develop what it is you want. For example, another one, if I brush my teeth and I only brush, or let's say flossing. Flossing's probably a better example because I know y'all don't do it. That's a joke, but I hope you do. And if I am not good at flossing, I wake up. The first thing you do in order to get better at flossing is figure out how to get one tooth. The habit has begun. Next time I know that I can get at least one tooth. And then I can work to 2, and then 3 one day. And then at some point, I'll just decide that I already have the damn floss in my teeth, so I'll just decide to do it all. But you had to make a conscious action and have some self-awareness that I need to floss at least one tooth today. And then if I do that consistently enough, I can get to a point where I have a habit of flossing my teeth. I don't know if I spoke about this before, but speaking on motor patterns and habits, I'm going to compare what is a professional athlete to a smoker. And just to explain to you guys how hard it can be or how important it is to detoxify, meaning, in this case, removing a toxic trait, habit, action, and replacing it with a new one. Professional athletes, in some cases in the strength and conditioning world, and if you are a strength and conditioning specialist / professional listening, you can understand, they are sometimes the hardest individuals to coach and teach in the weight room. That is because it is the Wild West in most cases, and a lot of times there are a lot of professional athletes that are just gifted with awesome athleticism, and they have gotten away with compensations and poor coaching and learning bad ways of movement. So when they get to you, they move a certain way, correct? Well, what has happened is not just they have a new motor pattern, but there is a habit in their weight room already. They've developed this thing that when they walk into the weight room, they'll go do this drill. They'll do it exactly the same way they've always done it. And now the problem with the professional athlete is you are having to try to develop what is a good motor pattern and implement it on top of what is the poor one. But also now you have to work on the habit of the habitual thinking and the hubris that is involved with a overinflated ego. It's very hard for professional athletes to quit moving the way they move. It's their habit. It is their addiction to sustaining what it is that got them to where they're at. A smoker, for example, has an action, not just the chemical reasons of being addicted to something that messes with the chemical properties in the brain, but they have this action hand to mouth, right? This is a motor pattern. It is familiar. It is easy. It provides signal and a relationship between cigarette and movement pattern. All of that goes right back into the brain, and all you're doing is just reinforcing hand-to-mouth cigarette addiction, habit, all the above. So, if we're wanting to detoxify, we have to be willing first and foremost to create self-awareness. A professional athlete, if they want to get in a better position, they must be self-aware enough and honest enough to say, I learned that incorrectly. What do you want me to do, coach? Cigarette smokers, outside of them facing the chemical properties of addiction, they have to realize when they have a cigarette in their hand that one of the things that is sustaining the habit is the action of bringing that cigarette up and down from the table to their face. What's funny is it really all roots back to what we talked about last week. Exercising. Not just the physical sense of going out and doing physical training. What are you exercising? Are you trying to exercise the unconscious action that is involved with not being coached and responding certain ways to when you're coached with ego or irritants? Are you exercising the idea of, okay, when I have this cigarette in my hand, my right hand, I often will bring it closer to my mouth. Not only that, as a form of just hand-to-mouth exercise, but also it is like a social setting thing, and I'm very reliant upon a cigarette or a coffee or a beer in the social setting. So if any of those things are things we're wanting to detoxify from or remove from our life because it's creating a toxic relationship with my outward expression of self, we need to exercise or figure it out what it is that's causing it and then exercise the opposite. Everything can be related back to training. But fitness training, to me, I've mentioned it earlier, but how I got to a point where I wanted to detoxify, remove people out of my life that were toxic in my life, it required the first tool that I have to get myself connected to the outside world, which is exercise and fitness training. And one of the most fundamental and important disciplines that we can get and use to yield legitimate change is committing time with yourself. Most people don't spend enough time with themselves. That's why self-awareness is so hard. That's why writing has been good to me. I've said it before, but exercise, in my opinion, is just a fast-tracked way for you to experience life in a very intense 50 minutes of self-exploration through physical hardship, mental navigation, movement problems with your ailments and injuries, and then figuring out how it is to become the conqueror and the hero at the end. Without blood flow, synovial fluid, movement, hormones, nutrients, and healthy muscle tissue, you do not have a system, right? Your body is a system that can best support your mind, which is the ultimate decision maker. How can your mind be so healthy if the system supporting it and all the nutrient delivery and all the things that are comprised of this amazing development being the human body? It's no wonder a lot of us do not have healthy minds. I am at my worst when I am least active, not in a over busy sense, but when I am not active, I easily fall into what is temporary, like grayness and despair and just frustration and stress. You need those chemicals moving and those hormones fluctuating, and you need nutrients delivered to your brain and your mind. And you need at least one of the platforms, at least your body being healthy. That way your mind could be healthy. And if those two are healthy, then the odds are you're getting closer to what is a spiritual health and how you perceive or see yourself within the world and the universe. I don't know if you guys knew this. I mentioned synovial fluid. Synovial fluid is really cool. It's like an oil or a lubricant essentially within the joint space, your capsular space within joints. You can move them. I didn't make this up. I'm certified in it. It's called Functional Range Conditioning, FRC. I'm an FRC mobility specialist, and that is people who focus on joint integrity and quality of movement within joint-specific approaches. So, for example, we call them CARs, controlled articular rotations. But if you could see me on the camera, this is a little fun coaching moment. The wrist, for example, is this kind of like hinge joint. It's pretty mobile. It can hinge, but it fundamentally has some rotation. You can take this controlled articular rotation of just the wrist itself and make sure my forearm doesn't move, and then I articulate all the way around with only wrist-specific tissue, right? What that does is it not only gets the joints within the hand itself to move, but now I'm pushing and moving synovial fluid around to lubricate that joint up. And I'm creating some neurological strength/awareness within the joint space, learning how to recruit musculature throughout the joint's range of motion. That is a simplified explanation of how complex the human body can get. But your body, it's like a car, man. The car has a bunch of systems operating that are very complex to support the outside aesthetics of a Lamborghini, for example. But if you don't service the car and you don't keep track of what's going on internally and take care of it and get it serviced and oiled and well fueled, the car breaks down. The only difference between you and a car is, well, you're not a car. Two, you have to get serviced every single day. It's not a 5,000-mile thing. It's a daily thing. I'm replenishing my food. I'm replenishing my water intake and my sodium and my electrolytes. I'm making sure the fuel is supporting my organs and my tissues, my skin. I'm moving my joints around to make sure that I'm lubricating and I'm fueled up. It's kind of interesting, but you are, in essence, all these big complex systems that are actually much more complicated than a vehicle. They really do all fundamentally support what is you. You are all of that. When we're thinking about detoxifying, people have confused the removal of things as a positive experience, or that is the only outlook or the only mechanism of what supports growth. Most people also feel like, or have kind of been manipulated into thinking that they get to choose. If I remove Instagram because of my poor relationship with Instagram, it is really not Instagram. I'm choosing Instagram because it is the extrinsic thing that's making me feel a certain way. So if I'm like, I'm going to go on a 10-day hiatus from Instagram, it's making me feel bad. It's like, okay, yeah, okay, do it. One, don't brag about it because who cares? It's your journey, not mine. I support you. But also, is it Instagram or is it a poor attention span? And have I taken the things that I was hating Instagram on, and did I just take them and, deal with those issues elsewhere? TikTok, X, formerly known as Twitter, Facebook. Did I get on, YouTube and get right back into the same headspace. It's like, okay, if I'm feeling negative about things on Instagram, if I go get on YouTube and look at the comments and watch videos that I don't necessarily care about, and it's actually a deeper rooted issue coming from you and your attention span and your discipline and the things you choose to put energy into, and so the detoxification is within. Yeah. Don't know what I did with my hands there. If you were watching right there, I don't know what that was, but at least we're in the same wheelhouse now. If you weren't watching, I did something weird with my hands. Good news, guys. I just got a message on the computer here that there is a cool development in the making. There is a website, Buried in the Bones website, coming out. I will publish that when I wanna. But it is finished up for now. It will include a bunch of cool things in there: workouts, training programs, mobility, resources, some studies and stuff for nutrition, health, strength and conditioning for people of all ages, cancer research. It will include, the podcast and some shorthand or short form, very articulate writing that I have taken a lot of pride in. And who knows, if I get really lucky and have a lot of fun down the road, you'll probably see, you know what, I'm not going to tell you guys that yet. How's that for a tease? That website will be published as soon as I feel like it, when I have some stuff in there that you guys want. You may even get a free PDF and nutrition guidelines that I have written for you guys. And that is something really exciting. So that is the segue of the day. I am excited, and shout out to Alex, one of my good friends here in Nashville, one of the people that I'm going to mention in just a minute. He is someone I met in jiu-jitsu. He could totally whip my ass. Also the kindest guy I know, and very, very smart. So he has been helping me with that, and it's super sweet. What a gangster. Anyways, all right, is it Instagram? Odds are no, it's probably deeper rooted. And this is kind of, this is a buzzword, but seed oils. Is it the seed oils that are the issue right now, or is it the fact I'm not tracking anything? I'm not becoming aware of what is going in my body. And the grand scale of what's happening is I'm not exercising or moving enough, and I'm consuming too much. And folks, I just want to say, I'll publish some studies if you'd like. Seed oils are a big buzzword right now, but a lot of those people are also marketing what is their very expensive, pure, healthy eating and clean eating approach to things. And I don't know if you knew this, but there shouldn't be a premium on what is healthy eating. Seed oils, for the most part, have been developed for people around the world to get access to what is healthier processed foods. So processed does not necessarily mean it went through a machine and it got, disgusting stuff all over it. It is very misunderstood, and it's the Wild West out there. And although you do want to eat what is organic foods, there's also plenty of studies out there that say organic, for the most part, that is also a part of the marketing scheme, right? So there's sometimes, like for bananas, for example, there's not that much difference in an organic banana and a regular banana. So if you can eat what is single ingredient foods, for the most part, and just watch what you eat, and then exercise a little bit more, that will give you the foundation and a success story of fitness and health. Once we get that down, then you can worry about seed oils. But guys, fear mongering is BS, and if anyone's like hating on you for seed oils, I eat them and I cook with them, and there is so much more to what is nutrition and the complex ecosystem that happens within your internal body. Nutrition is absolutely misunderstood, but what is understood is that consistency, daily activity, healthy lifestyle, those seem to be the most important. So stop stressing about it. Just, I would say, watch what you guys eat and track it. Figure out what extra is going into your body, and if seed oils eventually are something you want to remove out of your life, then do it. But that's not the first place you should look. And if that's the advice you're given, then bad advice. So that's my opinion. Another thing we can talk about, toxic or detoxification. It's kind of interesting. This kind of is a question I had to ask myself, but am I lonely, right? Or have I been unwilling to set aside energy and put forth energy into people that I want to support and keep people in my lives? That's a hard one. Talked about it last week. What are you exercising? That should be an exercise for a lot of people. And maybe it is a toxic trait that we get in where we justify our lack of action and keeping people in our lives, where we just judge them and justify, maybe selfishly, why it is we don't want them in our lives. For the most part, everyone's going to have something wrong with them, and that's just part of being a good human being, is choosing to love them. And if we can find our differences and then find some similarities, those things usually pan out to develop what is a good and healthy relationship. And in most cases, you need people around you that don't think like you, or else you'll get in what is the echo chamber and a very scary way to live your life. Didn't write that. That was off the whim. Today, detoxifying has been confused or misassociated with like temporary changes with diets, relationships, habits, and then arbitrary removal of things and what is perceived as toxic in order to virtue signal one's own grandiosity. Meaning virtue signal and brag. They love, I mentioned it earlier, but you're eating seed oils? What a loser. I cut those out of my life like 20 days ago. Or I've been off Instagram and TikTok for an eternity now. Why are you still on there? It's super easy. It's just most people, if they're bragging about it in a really weird way, they're not facing the thing that's actually the issue, which is maybe a little bit of insecurity. And that's not detoxifying. You're still toxic. Cheers. Now, you are... that was a little rude. But, listen, if you guys are like wanting to remove those things, it is certainly acceptable, but you can tell the difference in someone who is shaming you for not being a part of their journey, and they're obviously not working on what it is that's actually root cause. That's not detoxifying, because as we know, in order to detoxify, we actually need to add or create some addition to our lives that is an implementation of what will support our life. So if that's not doing it, what will? Right? Movement is not progress, and a lateral move is not progress or a good move. You know? Today, unfortunately, most actions and opinions and things that we do are hyperfixated on what people are perceiving us doing. And that is something I want to play with in my own life. I see that a lot. If you guys don't, know me very well, I am really concerned of being very good at what I do. And sometimes I have to make sure that I'm not, and I have to remind myself that like, okay, you've earned this, and what are you doing? Like, are you seeking validation from someone based on what you know you're good at? And sometimes I'll have to catch myself, because when I started, I was kind of groomed into the strength and conditioning in a good way. I told myself from 16 years old in high school football, when I changed my physical body, that I was going to be a strength and conditioning coach. What I didn't know at the time was how I could use strength and conditioning and fitness as a way to self-explore, and it actually helped me heal a lot of the trauma and misfortunes that maybe I had gone through with the loss of my father and the loss of my grandfather and my grandmother. And there was some pretty wild stuff with my stepdad, and it was tough, man. But what happened was I rooted into myself, and in order to detoxify or at least get rid of some of that, growtiness that was happening within, I had to find myself, and I found myself through physical exploration and the expanding of my own mind. But yeah, a lot of our issues today, we are so self-concerned with other people and how they view us. The problem with that is that's called an extrinsic motivator. and it's a basic concept in sports psychology and in all of psychology, but it's a pretty poor form of motivation if the aim is long-term sustainability. And our culture and social media is predominantly focused on extrinsic motivation. And that is why a lot of us have a hard time with habit changing or implementing new ones, because having people or thinking about people looking at us a different way is not enough to keep us going. This podcast, for example, one of the hardest things I had to think about was, am I doing it for me? Am I doing it to look like a podcaster? I'm certainly not. This is not a podcast that I just want to speak into people's lives. I want to stay within the wheelhouse that I know I'm good at and provide some value in what has been my personal experience in this journey, and then also some professional wisdom and experience and knowledge with the strength and conditioning space / fitness that I have had a lot of experience in. And that's hard, man. And it's a slippery slope. What we actually need is rooted kind of within internal dialogue, and the internal dialogue that bypasses our judgments and limits our conscious action. That is a habit. So when you create action without conscious effort or have some internal dialogue, that is a pretty well-formed habit where you have essentially taken stimulus, time, and response, and you've essentially just gone stimulus response. There's no time between to justify or make a new decision. You've eliminated that. And in order to get better at building better habits and implementing new movement patterns, new habits, detoxifying something in order to add something, you have to become self-aware. That goes for relationships, opinions, nutrition, laziness, habits, and your own self-deprecation. Marcus Aurelius said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of your thoughts." And I don't know if he said this, but there's another quote that says, "And if your thoughts are beautiful, so will you be." But the soul becomes dyed with the color of your thoughts. What are you detoxifying? And why and what is so bad? What is actually going on? I'm having to think about it too. Soul becomes dyed with the color of your thoughts. As we do this thing, and as we implement fitness and training and exercises into our lives to not only explore the outside world better, but become a little bit better experts of ourselves, we have to know that our mindset going forward will certainly change not only the impact of our physical change and the change that we actually yield and the growth that we see, but it will also show in how you impact others and your impact in the world. The thing I wrote right after that was, but also your objective beauty will be seen by the development of your efforts. The objective beauty of you will be seen by the development of your efforts. I've seen people who work out 4 times a week and train extremely hard, but they still move and look very mad, sad, and stressed out. I've seen people work out 2 times a week 1 to 2 times a week with a very healthy, vibrant, excited mind, and they yield much, much, much more growth. They're happier, and their objective beauty is much more beautiful than the person who has not moved within their mind. There has been no expansion because there's been no internal dialogue, and there's been no time between response and stimuli to create some conscious effort and self-awareness to go any further. Their soul has died with the color of their thoughts, and the color of their thoughts have affected their efforts, and their objective beauty shows for it. Brutal. Yeah, man. Detoxing is not just a random removal of something to give me a 72-hour break so I can get back on track with the same issue that I will continue to have because I'm not looking in the right area. It's extrinsic, but in reality the problem is intrinsic. It's not I'm going to drink a juice for 3 days or delete Instagram for 3 days. If it were the legitimate issue, it would be removed permanently. But perhaps the real issues are in our self-loathing, comparison, and our lack of discipline. Our lack of effort, for that matter. So, if physical fitness, training, and physical touch is the first tool I have to use to connect me, self, with the outside world, here is what physical training and fitness has done for me. The addition of endurance has been a tool for me to put myself in the same room as myself, and I get to spend time and commit time and mindfully ruminate over what is perhaps negative thoughts, actions, ideas, and things that I have stored within for a very long time. The addition of strength training and strength conditioning has helped me learn how to make conscious efforts, approach things that scare me, and how to stand up tall with my shoulders back, and how to hold my sacred ground and stand confidently for what I believe in. The addition of mobility is a way for me to self-explore and problem-solve movement issues and problems, and learn how to solve my own pains and explore my own limitations. It's the expansion of movement for what I thought I was capable of and what I can continue to do. Writing has been an exercise for me, where I get to sit down with myself, I get to commit time, and figure out what it is I actually believe, if it's actually my words, and if they're better on paper, or if what I have to say is better left unsaid. Ego check. And my favorite recently has been, Cal and I have been in Nashville for 2 years. And for the longest we were like, are we lonely? The addition of exercise and getting healthier has shown me that the addition of people in my life and relationships requires what is energy and effort to go out and find those people and keep them around and fill their cup, because I know they'll fill mine, and they support the lifestyle that I look forward to, and I support them. And I love now that people think differently than me, because it allows me to have some expansion through the movement I've had and what is relationships and love. And I got people, that are so much smarter than me that I feel like the dummy. I got people who are much sweeter than me and more thoughtful than me, who are busier than me, who are more successful than me. And the truth is, it's not loneliness. It's actually been, I've not put energy, and I've been selfish about my energy, and I've not put forth the effort to keep these people in my life. It requires training and exercise. And the more I train physically, the more energy I have, because my system is healthy, my physical body, and if that's right, my mind is healthy, and I can put that energy because I know consciously that's where it's deserved. Of course, you guys need to know when to consolidate that energy and preserve thyself, but there's a time and place for that. And that's a fun movement problem that you can explore with some mobility. And the most important addition to my life has been coffee, because it is the nectar of the gods. And that has allowed for the art of living. The truth is, guys, we have it backwards. You have to see who it is you want to be and who you want to become. And then when you have that, you can see what it is and what addition that is required in your life to go upon your quest to fulfill the purpose of being that person you want to be. You have to begin by fertilizing your mind and possibly the ego, and hopefully you'll manifest something that gets closer and closer to the person you're trying to become, or the life that you wish to achieve. It's kind of like a lawn. Hear me out. And I must say, this has just been my personal experience, and this is what I wrote about at 6 a.m. this morning, because I'm trying to be a lawn dad as well. But it's true. And with a really well organized lawn and a healthy lawn, you have the addition of nutrients, water, love, TLC, consistency. And if you do all those things right, you do it the right timing, and you provide this little ecosystem what it needs, it comes out with its objective beauty that's much more complex and deep-rooted within the dirt and the soil and the earth. And that gives you that outward extrinsic appearance, but what is truly a much more intrinsic, healthy thing that's going on. And the gym is no different. In fitness training, you fertilize your muscles through contractions that promote blood flow, and they get nutrients spread throughout the body. When those nutrients spread, you essentially get healthier tissues, organs, and systems that promote each other and kind of work with each other. And then throughout your training session, you have fast-tracked or role-played what is a very intense little storytelling of life. And you've gone through your voluntary hardship, and you've dived into subtle little toxic habits of thinking that have infiltrated your life. And you get to go through those thoughts, and you get to meditate and go through mindful rumination for mental purification. If that plays well, everything gets to consolidate and work its way up the chain to your brain and develop some healthy roots, which allows for a clear line of communication from brain to the rest of your ecosystem. Your muscles get to innervate more, meaning my brain gets to fire my muscles healthier. There's a deeper, better rooted connection. My nutrients are well displaced throughout my body, so all of my soil, my tissues are healthy. And that's life. As I get better, my communication gets better, how I look outward and present myself to the world is better. I know what it is I need to detoxify, which is bad habits, people, foods, laziness. Who it is that you want to be is a question that you have to answer. And then you have to ask yourself, okay, I am detoxifying this. What am I going to add instead? I did not want those people and do not want those people in my life. They do not support where it is I want to go. And for the longest, the detoxification, when I did my 70.3, guys, and I went through that long training thing, and I ended up doing it, by the way. It was really fun. It took me about 5 hours by myself. I felt a bit lonely. And I didn't really realize I was missing something. So I had detoxified, or I had removed those people from my life, but I was still feeling meh. And it's because I hadn't learned the idea that it's not that easy. It's way easier to do. It's not that simple. It's easy to simply just quit things like that and just cancel them out if you are going to still dive into what is negativity and self-loathing, self-deprecation, laziness, lack of discipline. It's learning how to put forth energy and train and exercise and allow for the addition of what it is I want in my life, which requires effort. Carl Jung said, no matter how isolated you are and how lonely you feel, if you do your work truly and conscientiously, unknown friends will come and seek you. If you do your work truly and conscientiously, unknown friends will come and seek you. And that has been so damn true in my life recently. If your efforts are pure, so will you be. Your objective beauty will show while you show the beauty of your efforts. As you feed your soul, your mind, body, and spirit, you have a healthier system, an ecosystem that can then go out and show some impact in the world. But what must be required first is some self-evaluation, assurance, and autonomy to figure out what it is you do not want or like within your life right now. Maybe your social media addiction, or are you addicted to certain things? Are you addicted to self-comparison? Are you addicted to the fact that you like to talk badly about yourself? Why do you still hang out with the same people if they do not support where it is you're going or what it is you want to do? Is that what you want to do? Are you fearful? Is the detoxification the fear of loneliness temporarily? Or is it the laziness associated with knowing that you have to go do some work in order to get some better people in your life? What are you detoxifying, and are you willing to do it if that means that you still have to put forth the work and efforts to add what it is that will benefit you in your life? Vicious removal must begin with conscious effort in a healthy mind, body, and soul. If you are not healthy, it is harder to make this shit happen. And that's a fact. As you move and start treating your body well and developing some more colorful thoughts, beautiful, colorful thoughts, and not gray, black and white thoughts that are just mundane and sad, and you deliver the nutrients to your body and allow your body to curate this healthy being, your objective beauty will show, and your impact will be in that on how you translate that to the outside world. Who it is you are becoming will be so damn clear based on your efforts. What are you detoxifying from? And are you ready to admit that it is not the social media apps or the seed oils, and that it is actually something within? That requires conscious self-awareness. And you have to know what it is that's causing these habits. And then you need to give yourself some more time between the stimulus and response. If someone makes you mad, the conscious effort will be, hold on, take a second, now take one more second, and then figure out how to react. If you're addicted to comparing yourself to people online, maybe don't like their photo. 2, maybe unfollow them. 3, wait a minute. I know that this is not real life. That person could be on some performance-enhancing drugs. What is a life with a camera on like anyways? Do I really want that life? Do I want to walk into a cocktail bar and dance on the table just to get some TikTok views? I mean, damn, come on, guys, that's not that cool anyways. Pretty lame. The truth is, we need to sit down and ask ourselves, what are we detoxifying from? And if that's going to be removed from my life, what's the legitimate issue and the more intrinsic reason? And then 2, what is it that I'm going to add in my life to better implement or encourage a more prosperous, exciting future for myself and others? Because that is what it's all about. How can I take care of others if I cannot take care of myself? How can I love others if I cannot take care of myself? Energy efficiency, movement economy. That's the lesson of endurance. And if you guys listened in a couple weeks ago, endurance is love, baby. Yeah, I'll leave you guys with those thoughts. These are my thoughts. I'll continue my efforts. I'll continue to try to merge power with perspective. And you guys can think about or mindfully ruminate maybe over a quick little run or a little walk. What are these habits and traits that are happening in your life? Where do they come from actually? What's the actual root issue? Am I going to detoxify? And if I do, what am I going to add instead? Leave it on that note. Onwards, my friends. See you guys next week.